Okay, I'm Judy LaPorte. I'm going to be the interviewer today. I'm in the room with Sally Harris and Leah McBain, who help with the interviews. And I would like to have, it's October 22nd. I would like to have you tell me your name and your birth date, month, and where you were born.
Yeah, not the month, just the year of the
I mean,
birth,
just the
right?
year.
Okay, yeah. My name is Richard Savage. I'm presently 80 years old. I was born September 1945.
And where were you born?
I was born in Cambridge, Mass, and grew up in Cambridge, Mass. And my wife as well. We met and married in Cambridge.
And how did you get acquainted with Newbury? How did you come?
Well, the Savage story goes back to 1946. And my grandfather, my father's father, worked for a time at the Boston, Maine Railroad. And occasionally he would come up and cover the Claremont to Concord Run or vice versa. And when he lost my grandmother and he was getting ready to retire, he said, I'm going to get off the train in Newbury because that lake is so pretty, and I'm going to look for a piece of property. So in 1946, he bought a piece of property on the side of the mountain, which is now Bell Cove Road, and he lived in a cabin there. His plan was to live there from spring to the fall because it wasn't, fully winterized. And interesting enough, the cabin, the Historical Society has researched, and it was built and owned by Henry Hancock, who was a famous surveyor and surveyed much of the lake and all the sounding of the depths of the lake. And he passed away, and my grandfather bought the property. So that was our first foot into Newbury, you might say. And we came up a couple of times as young children. I probably wouldn't remember, 2 or 3 years old. My two siblings, my older sister Peg, my older brother Michael, myself, and we visited. And my father couldn't wait because my grandfather offered him the lot next door. So my father bought it, and he started.
What year would that have been?
That would be about 1949, I would say. And his plan was to build a summer cottage, as people did in those days. And again, summer up here best we could. So he did that. And that began quite an odyssey because it was, shortly after the war in the 50s, probably 1950, he started. No money for construction costs or this or that, but piecemeal, he'd buy lumber. A couple of my uncles might come up, my grandfather next door, my mother's father, and slowly but surely, they gradually pieced together the beginnings of a cabin in a cottage, which we still exists in our memories, at least. I remember our very first trip up here, before anything was built. My grandfather took the family up to the state park. He said, you'll have to go up the chairlift, you'll have to see everything, see the lake and this and that. Well, I was just maybe 4 years old in my mother's lap, and we got on the chairlift. And she was totally unprepared for the ride up the lift. I guess it just never occurred to her. It looked so easy from the ground. So we got on there, and she was absolutely terrified. Fear that she would drop me out of the lift. Fear, as the chairs swing and so forth and bounce when they hit the rollers. And she was absolutely just in pieces when we got to the top of the mountain.
You probably were enjoying it.
And, well, I think I picked up on her fear. And she was so she refused to ride the chair back down when we were through touring the top. And the whole family had to walk down the mountain to comfort her. So that was our our first thing, and she never went back. years later.
So the lift at the mountain must have been pretty young then.
Yeah, I think it was the only one at
Yeah.
that time, just the main lift, and so that was her first experience. Then over the years, as I say, the cottage gradually came together. It was just, as I say, built by unskilled craftsmen, shall we say, but it served us well for years. It
Now,
had
your grandfather's cottage probably didn't have electricity, did it?
No, well, as far as I remember, it may have at the time we were there. It wasn't winterized, but he did have a well, and he had, as far as I know,
Plumbing.
electricity. Yep, it was the pump house also had some facilities in
Yeah,
there, so that was not so the cottage, for years to come, because it gradually came together. But we would go up, and my father, from 1950 to almost the day he died, he worked on the cottage.
Oh.
That was his life. Every vacation, every weekend. I don't think our car ever left Cambridge for the trip up to Newbury without a racks on the car loaded with lumber, so forth. And my father, he after the war, he got a job driving oil tanker trucks, and he managed to engineer getting a route right up from Boston to Claremont. And if you're familiar with the Boston area and Chelsea, in East Boston, where the oil tank companies are and so forth, in that area too are a number of what you'd call junkyards. We'd call them recycling centers today, I guess. But any demolition that went on in the city, they would salvage the doors and the windows and frame and sell them off. And so Dad would go there after work. He would pick up a couple of old doors, a couple of old windows, and he would load them on the back of the oil tanker truck.
Oh, clever.
And when he drove up from Boston, he would park the truck at the bottom of the hill. His father would come down. They would unload the doors and windows, because that was going to be the next weekend's project. And then off he'd go, deliver his oil, and come back. And in those days, the trip from Cambridge, now which is maybe an hour and 45 minutes, but there was no Route 93.
No.
There was no 89. They were all just sort of back roads through Acton and Groton and so on,
And all the way
Pepperell,
up here.
up through Nashua, and so it was a 3.5 hour trip,
Yeah.
depending.
Each way.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. And again, 3 young kids in the back of the car. His project on his mind, I suppose, and naturally on the way up, the kids would get restless, and they would threaten
Your
to
poor
put us
mother.
out by the side of the road and leave us. But we would. The treat was always the stop for ice cream on the way up. Halfway up, you'd stop somewhere to get ice cream cones and this or that. So that made the trip bearable.
So you had one sister and 2 brothers? I
had
brother?
my sister Peg was the oldest. My brother Mike was the next one. I was the third one. Now I'm leaving out because there's a huge space between me and my next youngest brother. There was 12 years separating us. And Jim was born 12 years after me, and then 3 years after that, my brother Brian, the youngest, was born. So there was quite a gap.
Yeah.
My sister Peg always used to tell the story how my mother showed up at her graduation from college pregnant. And she, but so the gap. So the beginning years in Newbury, there were just the 3 of us.
Oh, yeah.
And then we lived there. We everything central to Newbury, I think every kid will tell you this, is the dock. The dock is control central, home central. This is where you meet all your childhood friends. This is where you have all your fun, the swimming, the diving, the
Now, did
whole
you and your
thing.
mother stay here all summer?
Well, occasionally she would. It took all her courage, but once the place was secure enough, she might stay a couple of days at a time because my father was going to come up a little early that week or something. So she got the courage, and with my grandfather next door, she felt a little bit safer. And as time went on, he bought her a second car, what people used to call back in the day a 50-bucker. You know, you could buy it for $50, but it ran. So he left her a 1938 Ford in the yard in emergencies or to take, to go shopping or whatever. It had a stick shift on the floor, and she liked that car. And in those days, too, there was something unusual. They don't still have them, but you remember non-resident plates?
Oh, sure.
You used to get license plates that were just, you didn't have to pay full price because they were seasonal, and you could get a non-resident plate. So we had non-resident plates in the car, and Dad would come up, and so she got the courage to stay. It was better in the summer to keep us up at the lake than drag us back to Cambridge.
When you probably wanted to be up at the lake.
Absolutely. You just you never wanted to go home, and all the, I guess what you'd call inconveniences, that looking back today, I mean, it just never occurred to you as a kid. It just sunset to sundown, you just played. You just did your thing, and there was no TV.
No.
Everything, everybody complains about screen time in kids today. Our whole life, it never occurred to us because you couldn't get TV reception. And so everything was, card games with your brother until, a fight ended that. Or you'd read comic books. You'd read Hardy Boy mysteries.
Yeah.
If you get desperate, you read your sister's Nancy Drew mysteries. Then you might have a Boy's Life, Field and Stream, and this or that, and that was all the entertainment you needed. But you weren't aware of anything else really. I mean, you kind of hoped for TV, and eventually that came where you'd have a big old antenna on the roof. You'd only get one station, Channel 9, and that would all be snow. But at least it was something to look at, and. As they say, you went out all day long down at the dock. You'd meet up with your friends, you're kind of like a tumbleweed as a kid, 1 hour you're on the dock, the next hour you're here, you're there. Let's go fishing, let's go behind the schoolhouse, play some baseball, we'll play there. That was not paved or anything in those days, and we'd hit the balls into the trees, and the kids that lived locally would tell me, well, that's the schoolhouse. And I'd say, well, that's kind of small, and they would tell me how each row was a different grade. I couldn't figure that one out at all. But and those boys, the two I was closest to were Bob Croto and his brother Bruce, and the other kids were Doug August and Cliffy August. Pam Lynn was another one in that sort of age group. The Pomeroys. Do you remember Billy and Pam? Patty. And they were friends. So it was an assortment of that. Just day after day after day. I think the Ansatts were another family, Ronnie and Karen. And we just went on, and as they say, minute to minute, things would change.
Did you shop mostly at the store here, or did your mother go to Newbury?
Well, one of my early memories, we'd call it the general store.
Yeah.
And Mr. Berglund owned it at the time. His wife was the postmaster. And I can remember as a child going in there, and as I recall, it had kind of noisy wooden floors.
Yeah.
It had poor lighting. It always seemed darker than it should be in there, but very friendly place. Yeah. And you'd go in there, and they'd have a little hardware section. The post office was in the back. And I remember some Saturday mornings you'd go there, and occasionally there'd be a couple of lake trout in the meat case, and they would tell me that fishermen that had been out early that morning caught those, and he was keeping them cold for them, so they would display them. And I think the fishermen wanted people to know how successful they were. So for years it's been in the back of my mind. I wanted to catch one big enough to have put in the general store, you know.
But you never
in the
did?
freezer. Well, I did, because I fished the lake my whole life. And of course, we've caught. I thought I had eliminated all the rock bass and sunfish, but they're still there, because I caught millions of them over the years. But we basically fished from shore until I was probably 14 or 15, and we finally got a boat, small runabout, and which we bought from Richard and Wayne.
Oh,
The motor, the 10 horsepower motor. But anyway, fished it. It wasn't until about 10 years ago. I was out in the lake in July. I had given up long ago catching any lake trout or salmon, only because it requires in the summer, you know, deep trolling, and I was more of a caster. And all of a sudden, I caught a lake trout. Here it is, July, and it, you know, I was on the edge of deep water, but just with a lake trout. I couldn't believe it. I said, you know, something achieved, a goal.
Now
mastered.
I need an ice case and
Exactly.
a trading post.
2 hours later, I caught another one.
Wow.
oh my
Lord be praised. I couldn't believe it. And later that same summer, again a hot day, I caught a salmon.
Wow.
I said, maybe I'm not going to live to the end of the summer. I'm getting all these rewards. But anyway, I've spent so many thousands of hours fishing the lake. And one of the early, I know you know because she was your neighbor, Mrs. Pepin.
Yes.
Remember Mrs. Pepin?
Oh,
she was the fisherman of the lake. She and her husband, and particularly her later, matter of fact, she caught the state record lake trout in Sunapee, and it was the state record for years and years.
And the national record for golden trout.
Okay, yeah. And she just fished every day, and
all day long.
she was legendary. And so occasionally we'd talk to her, you know, we'd go down by the property, maybe fish from her shore. Maybe she'd give us a tip. I don't know. But yeah, she was an amazing person. And I think the fish, whether it's still there or not, used to hang in Fish and Game headquarters in Concord.
I think it probably,
Yeah, so.
is.
But that was a big activity, and all the boys would do that on occasion. But I was maybe more passionate about than others. Or would go down behind the even firehouse and police station at that time to the bog there. You'd catch some pickerel, and there used to be a beaver dam down there.
There still is a dam there because the firemen keep replenishing it after the state took out the beaver.
Oh, okay.
And the firemen keep rebuilding the dam because they want the water there when they need it.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, to keep the pond up. Yeah. I didn't realize they removed the beaver. I just thought they kind of went on their way, found better living quarters. I don't know.
No, they moved it.
But yeah, it's kind of a shame because they're interesting creatures.
They were worried about the dam giving way sometime and taking out that little bridge.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not really realistic. But
Yeah.
the state.
I know they also used to be along the access road into the state beach there. There were a number of beavers that you'd see. And that reminds me of the state park. Now, the state park, we went back. My mother wouldn't go back, of course, but we would go back. And as the cottage got built, different uncles, aunts, cousins, they would come up to visit. Well, you couldn't put all those people in this tiny cabin. So we had an uncle, they were from Connecticut, and he was just an outdoorsman, and they camped. And when they would come up with their 3 kids, they would camp at the state park, and we would all want to go over and camp, you know.
Yeah.
And his wife would go to get a nice bed in the cottage. He was left with all the kids. But the state park in those days was more, wilderness. In other words, there was no parking lot 2. That was all woods. Parking lot 3 was all woods. And back there were the campgrounds, at that low level. And they also had an archery range back there. And I remember one summer there was a big, I think either New England regional or perhaps it was national. But anyway, there was a big gathering of all the archers in a big competition and tournament. And for years over the fireplace in the state park, the main lodge, all their arrows were shot into a split log, if you ever remember that. At the end of the tournament, each archer shot one in this log.
Yeah.
And so we got our first taste of archery there, and I walk the dog there almost daily now, and it kind of tugs at my heart a little. I used to camp here. Why the cars have to park here? It was a great
Change is hard.
great spot. Yeah. Well, there's pluses and minuses, but you kind of like things the way they were, and so.
Did you ever learn to ski?
Yeah. Well, I not here.
No.
I took it up because we weren't here in the winter,
No.
so we didn't. So I did in college with friends, and they tended to go to Killington, and there were ski houses and so forth. But even with that, I never got very good at it, and sometimes I used to question going up in the chairlift. It would be so cold. I think you can get up there. It's 13 below. The wind's blowing, and I'm saying, "Why am I doing this? This isn't the least bit entertaining." And I remember one day, my mother would have liked this because I was about halfway up, and I wasn't dressed as warm as I should have been. And I said, "I'm not going to make it. I'm going to freeze to death before I get to the top. I might have to jump off this lift to save myself." So I gave it up after that. But the grandchildren, have all skied.
Oh, yeah.
When they come up, they ski Sunapee and enjoy it, because that's kind of generationally what has happened. Now, once the cottage was built, and we were up there several years. We grew up there. And then, as I say, the children were spaced out. So when the juniors came along, they went. We all cycled through. They had a life experience, delayed, but pretty much the same as ours through the cottage. And my father, at that time, no longer drove the trucks. He became very active in his union, and for years he was active to where he got placed in the National Oil, Chemical, and Atomic Workers Office out in Denver, Colorado. He became a official nationally. And he couldn't get back to the cottage. Well, it just so happens that my older sister, Peg, now her kids are old enough, so they were able to summer in the cottage. And
how
so
wonderful.
her 3 children came up pretty much the way we did.
Yeah.
The doc, the friends, the whole Newbury experience, bonded with the community as well. Just a generation later, and each of those kids, one son now lives next door to us on the land that my grandfather's cabin was on. They built a house there in the year 2000. And he's just retired there now himself, and
thoroughly enjoying it.
Oh, absolutely. And my sister, when my dad retired, now they had cycled through the cottage. When my dad retired, they bought a house on Newbury Heights, so they continue their summers here, and their kids. So they lived on Newbury Heights and summered there, with their kids as they grew. And her son, Chris, her other son, now lives in that house on Newbury Heights. He summers there. So, we've just got our tentacles all over the neighborhood. And
What's their last name?
Hallisey.
Hallis.
And Bob Hallisey, her husband, he volunteered for years. People probably know him being at the front desk of the New London Hospital. He 20 years he was sort of the face there at the hospital. Then when my father retired, he would summer there. He would winter down in Florida, come back to his precious location, his sacred ground in Newbury, and had very happy retirement there for a number of years. My mother had passed away years earlier. She passed away at age 52 of uterine cancer. So the two youngest boys grew up basically without a mother from age, say, 10 or 12 on. So it was very hard on Dad, but, you know, he was a master of everything, so he got through and provided them a great life. And when he retired, he did later in life meet a wonderful woman in Florida, and they would summer back at the cabin. She wasn't as enthusiastic about his paradise as he was, but she put up with it, and then they lived in Florida the other year. And then Dad, after maybe about 10 years, he got ill, got lymphoma. He gradually declined and didn't suffer. It's just that blood count just keeps getting worse and worse, I guess. And by that time, my sister had sold their house on Newbury Heights to Chris, and they bought a house on Cloverfield Road. And they retired here full time, so that was their.
So you really did spread.
Oh, exactly. We're not through yet. But they lived in Cloverfield, and it just worked out wonderfully because as Dad declined, he wanted to naturally stay, you know, at home, and it was summertime, so he'd stay in the cottage, and then it became sort of impractical. Well, he could transition right over to Cloverfield Road, beautiful home, this or that, and he was well enough where he could take care of himself through the week, and visiting nurses would come in and, you know, attend to him, Meals on Wheels. But he could get along, you know, work fine, live day to day fine, would be up weekends, or would come up midweek and just check on him and so forth. So it was just a wonderful transition because he didn't have to leave Newbury. He still had family. He still could stop by,
That's
you know,
ideal.
the cottage. Oh, it really was, particularly where he was mobile. And then he just declined. In other words, the blood count just doesn't come back. You just get weaker and weaker. But he didn't suffer.
Oh,
And again, thank God, the visiting nurses came in. I had come up. My sister had come up, and he seemed pretty fine. A little weaker than normal, but you know, up watching TV, watching the ball game. When the visiting nurse was leaving, she said, she said, I don't think he's going to make it through the night. I said, gee, you know, he doesn't look quite that bad, but, you know, she said, you might want to get a priest. So we said, well, okay. Well, it was a busy weekend. We called Newport, we called Sunapee, and there was no priest available.
Really?
But they said, we'll get you one. So they got a priest from Claremont that came down, and he was a character of characters. He came in, he had this black sedan with a raccoon tail on the antenna. He had, these I support police stickers on the back, and he was just this gregarious character. And he came in, and Dad was watching the ball game, and he said, who you watching? And Dad said, well, the Braves against, the Giants. And Dad would name off 5 or 6 ball players, and this guy priest knew his baseball as well. And he said, wow, you really know your baseball, He says, but Dick, I got another call. He says, so if you don't mind, while I'm here, could I give you last rites? And Dad said, go ahead, Father, as many times as you'd like. And Dad was a religious guy too. Well, anyway, he got the last rites, and again, he just seemed, like he would have weeks
A
left.
guy watching a ball game.
Yeah, weak, but and so we went to bed that night, and I was in one room, my sister in another, Dad in another one, and in the morning he was gone.
Wow.
Oh my. Now, how long ago was this?
This was probably the year 2000, maybe 99, 2000, and we just felt he had such really a peaceful exit right where he wanted to be, here in Newbury, near the home, just a
Wonderful.
perfect ending.
That's right.
And so then I was getting, thinking about retiring myself, and just as I had promised myself when I was 12 on the dock, I'm going to live here someday. We decided that we would build on the site and live here year round. So we moved up 20 years ago, and have happily lived here, ever since.
Did you take down the old?
Yeah, it's the hardest thing I ever did. But it was time, and it was impractical. And we had been up many summers when Dad was here, so, our daughter Robin, again, she didn't stay long. We were kind of back and forth, but we, she got to experience the dock, and she's bonded to the community as well. Now, particularly with Chris Halsey and Aaron, they're all.
And of course, you have a
close.
Beautiful home now.
And it's all the things that I wish Dad had, but he wouldn't wish for it. It's funny.
That's right.
He was happy the way he did
And
it.
happy building.
Oh, absolutely.
He loved
He never stopped. I mean, there was always something, and it was always manual labor, this or that, or project. I mean, that was his joy.
So were you guys pressed into labor? I mean, were you part of the building?
No, well, no, we were kind of young, so you're kind of pests more than helpers. So they would threaten us. You can either go down the dock or you can cut brush. Well,
they wanted to get rid of you.
but I do remember, the frugal days there. I remember being called upon to straighten nails. Nail get bent. I mean, people saved their nails in those days, so we did things like that. But mainly our job was to stay out of harm's way, stay out of his hair, and maybe at the end of a long day, he might come down the dock and dive in.
Yeah.
But usually we just went down the dock in the morning. Mom would come by, maybe at lunchtime, meet up with, there'd be other mothers, this or that. She might bring sandwiches and Kool-Aid or Zarex. Remember Zarex?
Yeah.
And we would have our lunch there. And as they say, maybe late afternoon, one day out of a week, Dad would come down, meet up with.
If it was really, really hot.
Well, exactly. Or he had friends up, because even people that he worked with that maybe even helped him out with some of the labor would come up to visit that he worked with, and they eventually bought homes here. The Yales, remember Charlie and Ginger Yale?
Absolutely.
And they had the house right across the street here.
Yeah.
And their son Chucky and their daughter Susan were again part of that group on the dock. And
Did you have summer jobs up here when you were?
No, once you entered your teen years, that whole social fabric disappears. Once the teen years hit. By the time I was, say, 14 or 15, my sister being older, she had a full-time job summers down in Cambridge. So it was kind of harder for my mother to come up. Same with my brother Michael, who sadly passed away at age 38 of brain cancer. But they worked summer jobs. So again, I could come up maybe less frequently, and that's when the breaks start to happen. Plus, the local kids here, they would start to get summer job because they were, everybody was starting to get old enough to get their working papers.
Yep.
Remember working papers? So that those groups kind of disintegrate. But then the final couple of years there, when we had the boat, the runner boat, it was more grown-up fun. You could go out and expand
Actually fish.
different things, and there'd be other kids. You remember the Starks,
Yes.
Tommy Stark,
Yes.
and Sue, and he had a runabout, and so we would go out and maybe race each other, maybe fish, whatever fun you could have.
Where
And
did you keep the boats? Did you put them in and out of the water?
yeah, I mean, this was like a 12-foot aluminum boat,
So did you drag it
so you
down
could
the road?
take it. Well, no, actually, we used to put it when your family had the property where the quick stop is.
Oh,
Right there, would go under the bridge,
Okay.
and Richard would say, just pull it up on the.
yeah, right. Where now it's the gas station and
Yeah,
convenience
Yeah, the
store.
quick
And
stop,
yeah, you
yeah.
can go under the bridge there and
right.
pull right up.
So
on
we
the
would keep
shore.
it there.
Okay,
and
just
then-
on the side of the little.
Yeah,
Round.
just pull it up on shore, but the other side of the bridge,
Yeah.
next to the ice cream window at the
Yeah.
Bubba's,
Yeah, right,
which
opposite, yeah.
where you'd be.
Was there anybody besides the Berglunds, any people that made a big impression on you back then? Local people?
Well, I'll tell you, a big impression. Like again, when you're at the dock, a couple of things would happen almost daily. One would be the train would come,
Oh, yeah.
because I missed the train as well. The train would come, and frequently you'd race from the dock. If you had a penny or a coin, you'd put it on the track, waiting for the train to pull through so it would get smashed, come out the size of $50. So that was the delight. You might watch them unload whatever packages they had in the depot. The mail would come. And the other one, do you remember the Rollins brothers?
Oh, yes. Everybody
We laugh
mentions the
because
Rollins.
almost every oral history someone brings. I was sitting here going,
Absolutely.
it's gonna be the Rollins.
Well, again, once a week or whenever they would come down to their buckboard, and one would go into the store or the post office, and the other one would sit out there. And we didn't know whether to be terrified of them but they were certainly curious fellas. I don't think they ever said hello or anything. He just sat there with the whiskers and
Oh, yeah.
it just. But remarkable, but most interesting people that I really don't know, ever knew a whole lot about. I guess they were just like mountain men, and quite fascinating. But I think as time went on, I was very impressed with the Larson family, that bought the store and ran it. Very tight-knit, hard-working. Arthur was something, and I knew their boys. They were a little older,
Yeah.
Carl and David, and they were just an impressive family. I always felt, they really did.
And I love the story, Richard putting you to work in the garage.
Well, I have that. Actually, I brought the letter that I sent Wayne, and
I read it.
and
Richard's, yeah.
yeah. Actually, I have got
Tell us more.
I've got a letter from his wife at the time. But that was, I remember when I heard about Richard's death, it just brought back such a flood of memories. It was like unplugging a dam. And as you get older from the dock, and particularly teenage boys, you get more and more interested in mechanical things, cars and whatever. So I would find myself drifting over to the LaPorte's garage on occasion, kind of hanging around. Richard and his friends would be out fixing motorcycles, and people would pull in and out of the gas pumps, and so you'd go over and hope that somebody would pull in, and you could say, fill her up, and can I do your windshield? And you felt like you were doing some pretty important things. So we would hang out there occasionally, and probably getting away a little bit, but the secret attraction over there too was they had a go-kart. And at the end of the day, when things were quieting down, sometimes they would fire that up. So we wanted to drive the go-kart. So one day I get on it, they started it up, and we would do ovals around the gas pumps. And of course, the faster you went, the bigger the oval got, and you got to watch out because next thing I know, I'm going around, lost control, went out of the station onto 103A, and crashed into the information booth, which used to be at the triangle at the intersection of 103 and 1A, and dumped it over and came out with some pretty decent scrapes. And then the other huge memory of the lot was when Richard got his Corvette. He got a 1960 Corvette. And I happened to see one down the State Beach. You see classic cars around the lake many times, but I saw one maybe a week ago, all perfectly restored. And I said to myself, can't believe that car is 65 years old.
Yeah.
But Richard brought the Corvette, and one day I was at the gas station, and he said, "Come on, we're going to go down to Headache and get some parts." So I got in the Corvette. What a treat. I don't think I appreciated what a daredevil Richard was. Some might say a speed demon.
Oh.
But I got on I should have known with motorcycle racing and all the things that he did. But I got in the car, and this was before, quote unquote, new 103. This is when 103, Bell Cove Extension was 103. This was before it didn't go by Lake Todd, right? It used to tuck around Applewoods and then by the waterfall in Bradford and come out. And so that was the type of road. And we started going 60, 70, 80 miles an hour down these roads. And I'm saying, I might have made an error here. When the roads got a little bit better, 90, 100, I swear to God, I saw 121 on the thing on a stretcher road. And I was like my mother was on the chairlift. I was really felt, and we got there and he said, "Damn it," he says, "I think we set a new land speed record to get to Henniker." And all I'm thinking is, I got to go back with this guy. And so we made it back. And I remember a couple of times hitting bumps and getting airborne. So I finally got back, and I made the mistake of telling my mother. I went on a ride with Richard LaPorte, and I tried it, and she started rapping me on the head. "What did you get in the car with that man for?" So I said, "Well, I shouldn't have told you."
There was another time when she wasn't very happy with you either, when you'd been moving the batteries.
Yeah, one day I was in the garage, and they had just got a shipment of automobile batteries in, and for the summer, and you're looking for something to do? Yeah, take the caps off those batteries and fill it up with this liquid. Well, I thought it was water, but anyway, I filled each of the batteries, put the caps back, and then you'd pick them up and bring them over to the rack and put them on. So I did probably 6 or 8 batteries. And of course, there'd be some liquid to spill at the top of the battery, and I would carry it and land on my shirt, but I didn't think anything. I figured it will dry. About 2 days later, Mom's doing the laundry. She holds up my new summer jersey. It's like Swiss cheese. The acid had eaten all the way through. Same with the shorts. So again, a few more wraps on the head. Don't go near that garage. It's dangerous. So we learned our lesson there. I appreciate it. But all those memories came back when Richard passed. And it was funny because if you ask me when I wrote that letter, I would have said 5 years ago. It's 13 years. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I brought a copy down of the letter, and I'll leave it with you. But it was just one of the the great memories and things that happened to you when you were a kid that just can't be replaced.
Good
And,
memories of Newbury in years
Oh,
past.
exactly. And I think when I think of Newbury too, I've certainly changed. We've all changed over the past,
Yeah.
75, 80 years, but Newbury hasn't changed that much, really. I mean, it's the same. If you go to South Newbury to Newbury and along Bell Cove, outside of the actual lakefront, and I think it's somewhat busier traffic-wise, but essentially it looks the same. When I go up and down 103.
And people are still friendly.
Oh, exactly, and I just find that comforting. It's kind of like the bookends of my life. So many years here at the beginning, and now in retirement. It's just wonderful. But there's just a consistency and a way that doesn't change. There's no big building that popped up somewhere that you can't take. When you look at Bubba's, I can still picture the general store. I know the outline. I can tell you when the addition was built, and then the post office, which is now their ice cream stand, was the post office when it moved on that side. And that's the other thing. It's just the fun of going to the post office every day. I would never want my mail delivered. Just to go in and interact with the
Get
people
to talk
there
to people, sure.
daily, and how you doing, and it's just and they're wonderful people. Every staff member there along the way. I think the biggest joy that you can have, particularly if you've dealt with city life all those years, is to go in the town hall and register your car or pay your bill. I mean, there's nobody there. You walk up to the window, you just no stressful, like the DMV in town. I mean, there's jokes about that. It's just you just be prepared to bring your tent. It's just an awesome experience. And Linda, every time you go, so pleasant. It's just
She a sweetheart.
so you can navigate life here with such ease. And I remember when I was retiring, and you tell people that I taught with, well, I'm going to move to New Hampshire. New Hampshire? I mean, they think I was moving to the moon. Well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to live in paradise. Well, how do you go to the store? I said, well, where's the supermarket? I said, it's about 10 miles away. They said, 10 miles? I said, yeah, but I can get there in 15 minutes, and it's through the woods and around the lake. I said, it's beautiful. And when I get there, there's plenty of parking, and there's no stress, and we're just, and they just don't understand. But if they come up to visit me, and they stay a day or two, they say, now I know. I know what paradise is. Yeah, and they want to come themselves. And now, if we go down to visit Robin, my daughter, down in Linfield, as soon as I cross the Merrimack River at Methuen, my whole demeanor changes. I tense up. I just can't do it, And now we're in the next phase, because the grandsons again have bonded to the community. They come up winters, they come up summers. Now they bring their college friends. They they just.
It's a lot of work, but it's fun, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, and to see them, enjoy it, and again, my sister's, grandchildren, Chris's son and daughter, they've certainly bonded with Newbury, and there'll be generations on. So, we're not going to stop. With those savage tentacles are going to be throughout the neighborhood. So.
Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about?
I'm sure I'll think of 100 things when I leave.
We always do.
But it's just fun occasionally, meeting people. Again, I'm out walking the dog, and